Hey up, it's that old Yorkshire geek here, back again with some more geeky news. So we'll just get on with it straight away. No fannying about. Right. There we go. There's the window with the news in it for slots from InsideTheMagic.net. As usual, all the links are in the description box below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and share the videos, and use the notification bell, and drop a comment. And if you want to watch live, you're not doing that, but but whatever. Right, there's a highly exciting update for Star Wars Legends fans, and there's Luke Skywalker in his X-Wing. Red 5 standing by. Red Buttons standing by. Helen Reddy standing by. Damn you, Family Guy. Can't watch Star Wars without thinking of Family Guy or Robot Chicken. Anyway. During the 2020 Disney Investor Day event, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy confirmed a number of Star Wars projects, including nearly a dozen Disney Plus original series and the next Star Wars feature film, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, directed by Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman 84, I Am the Knight. That one doesn't ring a bell. Anyway. Getting the film... Disney's first Star Wars movie project since the divisive sequel trilogy ended with Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker 2019 off the ground, however, has seemingly been a challenge. I don't think it's going to happen. Despite tapping comedic writer Matthew Robinson, best known for working on the invention of lying with Ricky Gervais, Rogue Squadron was removed from Lucasfilm's production schedule in November 2021. Then, however, the movie was almost immediately re-added, and its December 2023 release date has not been officially changed at this time. And there's KK in front of a picture of, a logo. I still don't think it's going to happen. Now, a surprising update about the movie has been revealed. Full stop. At GalaxyCon, Star Wars fan Brad spoke to author Michael Stackpole, who is known for the Rogue Squadron novels in the 1990s. The books were decanonised when the Walt Disney Company purchased Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012. So this is the first time they have a chance to join Disney's existing canon in any capacity. Brad took to Twitter to share. Not every day you get to chat with one of your favourite Star Wars authors. Great meeting Michael Stackpole, who told me he was highly excited about the upcoming Rogue Squadron movie and assured me Patty Jenkins had been in contact with him early on. Hashtag GalaxyCon at Scarif Podcast. And there's a photo. I don't know which. I presume that's Michael Stackpole and I presume that's Brad. Just guessing. Anyway, it is news to fans that Stackpole has any involvement, even minor involvement, in the upcoming Rogue Squadron film. The daughter of a fighter pilot father, Jenkins has previously shared she wants to make the greatest fighter pilot movie of all time. And there's some cover art. Although little is known about the movie at this time, Jenkins has confirmed it will feature a new cast of characters based loosely on the popular Rogue Squadron novels and LucasArts games. And actor Chris Pine, who worked with Jenkins on the I Am the Knight miniseries about the iconic Black Dahlia murders, has confirmed that the Rogue Squadron script is really, really great. Is Chris Pine going to be in it? That's bizarre. As for how much Stackpole's novel series will influence the next Star Wars movie, Jenkins previously told IGN, "We're doing something original with great influence from the games and the books. There's a lot of things being acknowledged and understood about the greatness of all those things. But yes, it's an original story, and I'm so psyched to do it." And there she is, Patty Jenkins, who I think is, super hot. I just do, sorry. The 1998 Nintendo 64 Star Wars Rogue Squadron game in particular has a cult following. Wikipedia shares these details about the plot. The story is set between Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope and Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back, beginning 6 months after the Battle of Yavin, with the exception of the final and secret levels. Oh, pardon me. and shows the mission set during the formation of Rogue Squadron led by Luke Skywalker and Wedge Antilles. Do you hope Michael Stackpole plays a key role in Rogue Squadron production? And that's it. As I say, he said, where is it? He said, let's get the quote. Being in contact with him early on, and I think that's all that's happened. She's given him a call. She said, we're going to be doing a Rogue Squadron movie, just letting you know, because you wrote books about it. And I think that's it. I don't think he'll have any influence on what the film's going to be like. Not that I think the film's going to happen. So I don't think it will. I honestly don't think. I hope it does, because I like Patty Jenkins, even though she made a mess of Wonder Woman 1984. But, as I said, I think she's kind of hot. And I hope she does well. Right, we'll move on. This one is not about a particular genre thing, but it's about streaming services, which they're everywhere, aren't they now? This is saying the golden age of streaming could cost viewers up to £2,500 a year. If you're in America, that's at the moment that's about $3,300, give or take. It's because there's so many of them. Anyway, let's have a read. Right, consumers may reconsider how essential multiple platforms are as subscription costs rise and the cost of living crisis bites. Viewers are living in a golden age of TV, spoilt by more must-watch shows, films and live sport than at any time in broadcasting history, but the cost of getting it all has risen to £2,500 a year, leaving some entertainment fans wondering if they can afford the streaming revolution. Well, you've just got to pick and choose, haven't you, which ones you want, basically. The global streaming phenomenon has resulted in the launch of an unprecedented number of services, mostly paid for, from Netflix and Amazon to Disney Plus and tiers of ITV's latest effort, ITVX. So they then called it ITV Plus. That's the latest thing, isn't it? Anyway, that compete alongside pay TV providers such as Sky and BT and the licence fee-funded BBC for a share of household budgets that have been pushed to breaking point. With inflation running at a 30-year high and already soaring energy prices being pushed higher by the war in Ukraine, the rising cost of everything from food to petrol is forcing households to tighten their belts. The TV and video services that saved the UK from lockdown boredom, Britain spent 40% of their waking hours stuck at home watching TV, are no longer being viewed as the sacrosanct household essentials they were at the height of the COVID pandemic, which fueled a record rise in global subscribers. They were sat at home, they couldn't do anything, could they? Apart from watch telly. The public perception has been that these services are cheap, says Tom Harrington, head of television at Enders Analysis, and they certainly were. But the cost is now quickly transitioning from what is for many an automatic and then forgotten regular discretionary spend to a noticeable chunk leaving their account. Viewers who can't bear to miss out on the best TV on offer, from Premier League and Champions League football to dramas such as The Crown and Peaky Blinders, and blockbuster franchises such as Star Wars and Marvel, will have to find about £200 a month on average. Enders Analysis estimates that consumers have the opportunity to access 130,000 hours of content from streamers and video-on-demand offerings, compared with the comparatively measly 30,000 hours as recently as 2016. As the market has boomed, the cost, which includes the average monthly price of a broadband and phone package, has increased by almost a quarter in the last 3 years, from £2,040 in 2019. Ampere Analysis, which compiled the figures, says that the increase is mostly to do with the proliferation of new services as the streaming wars hit their peak. However, UK households are now also facing inflation-busting increases in their home broadband, phone and pay TV packages of up to 10%. So I keep thinking I'm going to cancel my TV and say I spend an awful lot, the stupid amount of money on the TV channels that I don't watch. I keep saying I'm going to get in touch with them and just have the phone and broadband and the basic telly, the basic TV package, and just get rid of the rest. But I never do. Never do. I'm all mouth. Anyway, and the financial war of attrition initiated by Netflix offering a low-cost binge-watching model to build global scale that aped by all rivals has become a hunt for sustainable profitability, with consumers paying the price. Last week, Netflix raised its prices in the UK and Ireland for the second time in 2 years, making a 22% increase in the price of its most popular plan, which is now $10.99 a month over that period. Oh, pardon me. I had stir fry for my tea. That's repeating on me. It's onions. Excuses. And last year, Disney Plus upped its cost by a third after adding more content for subscribers. Netflix says that price rises are the cost of funding its swelling content budget, which has risen from $7 billion to $18 billion annually in the last 4 years as it fights to maintain its position as the world's favourite streaming service. The streaming market has been supported by debt-funded, loss-leading, loss-making models, says Harrington. Netflix entered the market and set a budget price, and everyone has had to come in under that to compete. You had all these profitable content companies, pay TV and linear TV broadcasters who had to move into streaming, and it's not as profitable. Now they have to start looking at value, and customers are going to be continually asked to pay more until these things make real money. The drive for revenue and the squeeze on customers was highlighted last week when Netflix began its long-expected crackdown on a huge subscriber perk, password sharing. Until now, Netflix has let password sharing run rampant as breakneck growth outweighed the need to crack down on families and friends being able to watch Netflix for a few pounds. In a blog post on Wednesday, Chen Yi Long, Director of Product Innovation at Netflix, said the practice was impacting our ability to invest in great new TV and film for our members. The company announced a trial in Chile, Costa Rica and Peru, charging between £1 and £2.50 to allow subscribers to add people from outside their household to their account. The crackdown could add millions to Netflix's bottom line. The research firm, Magid, I don't know how to pronounce that, has estimated that about a third of Netflix users share their password with someone else. I don't know anybody to share it with. Everybody I know, I think, has already got Netflix. Netflix's decision also means, however, that many of those borrowing passwords will now have to decide if they want to add another cost to their monthly outgoings. The pandemic was good if you were a subscription service, says Richard Broughton, an analyst at Ampere. People were stuck at home, and even those with their finances under pressure found home entertainment a must-have. But now there is a cost of living crunch on the horizon. With so many pay TV and streaming products, I think we will see consumers seriously assessing their monthly outgoings. It will be about winning that battle to be seen as essential entertainment. Oh, that's it. Yep, there's too many streaming services, and here in the UK, it's even worse in America, really, I suppose. But here in the UK, like I said, we've got Netflix, we've got Amazon, we've got Disney Plus. What else have we got? We've got Paramount Plus is coming soon, and that's about it really for us. You know, we're not too bad. But on top of that, you've got, like I say, your pay TV, you've got your like satellite and cable channels, and then you can be paying like £100 a month for some of their content, can't you? So it's getting a bit much, to be honest, especially when we're all having to tighten our belts and prices are going up for the essentials, food, you know, and fuel and electricity and, you know, and all that. So it's getting a bit much. So you're gonna have to pick and choose what you want. I'm thinking about, you know, maybe not having Netflix. We keep Amazon because my son likes to buy things on the Amazon streaming services. You know, it's always buying films, so to keep that, I suppose. But I don't. To be honest, the only things I watch on Netflix is Star Trek. But I've already got them on disc anyway. So I've got to keep Disney Plus. He likes his Disney Plus, and I won't be getting Paramount Plus. So at least we don't have like HBO Max to worry about over here. But I think it's probably only a matter of time before that starts up. But anyway, so there you go. £2,500 a year if you want to get all the streamers and all the pay TV people. See, I'm on cable, I'm with Virgin Media, and that costs a bomb. That means a lot. Anyway, and Leonardo's not happy. Look, he's looking at his monthly bills on his phone, and she's saying, "How much?" By gum, she's a striking young lady, isn't she? I don't know what that's off. But Don't Look. Oh, it's from Don't Look Up. All right. Oh, was it Jennifer Lawrence? Never realised. Oh, it is. Yeah. Thought she was striking. There you go. Right. Godzilla vs. Kong. Or is it Kong vs. Godzilla? I don't know. Sequel now set to film in Australia later this year. And there they are, roaring at each other. I quite liked King Kong. But I can't remember what it was called. Was it Godzilla vs. Kong or King Kong vs. Godzilla? I can't remember. Anyway, I quite liked it. It was stupid, but, it was all right. Are you ready for the next chapter in the Kong/Godzilla saga? Variety now reports that the official follow-up to Godzilla vs. Kong, that must be it, is ready to shoot in Australia later this year. This is big news for fans of the series. Moviegoers flocked to cinemas to witness the previous entry, helping it earn close to $500 million during a global pandemic. Yeah, I think it was one of the early films, wasn't it, that were at cinemas before all cinemas shut down. I think or was it one that when cinemas started opening up again? I can't remember. Of that time, that 2 years is just like a blur to my addled brain. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. According to Variety, the currently untitled sequel will receive 16 million Australian dollars, 11.8 million American dollars. I don't know what it is in pounds. What will it be? Probably about 8 or 9 million pounds via the Australian federal government's 540 million Australian dollars, 399 million American dollars, location incentive program. I'll just say Australian one. A further 6.3 million Australian dollars of subsidy will come from the state screen agency Screen Queensland and its production attraction strategy. And that's not all. The outlet also notes Australian authorities mentioned to expect the new company to generate more than 119 million Australian dollars into the economy, employ more than 500 local cast and crew, and use more than 750 extras. We are not yet aware of exactly which MonsterVerse project is expected to shoot in Australia this year. After the massive success of Godzilla vs. Kong, there were talks of a number of different projects, including Son of Kong, at the hands of director Adam Wingard. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Legendary was quietly taking steps to stretch the series into one or more instalments, entering early talks with Godzilla vs. Kong director Adam Wingard to return for another round of monster-on-monster mayhem. If a deal closes, Wingard would be the first helmer to return to the monster fold since Godzilla kicked off the legendary partnership with Japan's Toho in 2014 with $524 million in global receipts. Whatever the next MonsterVerse film is, it'll be the 5th in the ongoing legendary series. Godzilla vs. Kong was the 4th, following Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla King of Monsters. Oh, that's it. Well, there you go. So there you go, another Monster Fest coming, and I look forward to it. I like Godzilla. The Gareth Edwards. Is it Gareth Edwards? Yeah, I think it was Gareth Edwards, wasn't it? Yeah, that one. I like that. People said they didn't like it because there weren't enough, monsters in it. It kept cutting away when you got to the monsters, but I didn't mind it, to be honest. I thought it were good. I didn't like Godzilla King of Monsters. For some reason, that didn't lift my skirt up, as Spencer Trilby might say. But I liked Kong Skull Island, and I liked Godzilla vs. Kong. So there you go. So I look forward to the next one. Right, Star Trek, here we go. Star Trek and the Shadow of World War III. Star Trek's fictional World War III casts a long shadow over its timeline, and now Discovery and Picard are exploring how hard-won the show's utopia was. Set in a distant utopian future, but ever since the original series Star Trek has sought to hold a mirror to contemporary political and moral dilemmas. That's hold a mirror, not... how shall I put it? It's a reflection. Star Trek should be a reflection of current times, not a clone of current times, which is what they're trying to do with it. They're trying to imprint current times onto Star Trek instead of Star Trek telling us how we could do better, basically. Anyway, in documentary series The Centre Seat, celebrating 55 years of Star Trek, now available in the UK on IMDb TV, which I've been watching today and it's very good. I've just got up to... I've just finished watching the Star Trek The Motion Picture episode, which I think is episode 3, I think. First episode was about the original series. The second episode was about the animated series. And the third one's about Phase 2, which never happened, and Star Trek The Motion Picture. So I'm presuming the next episode will be about Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. Anyway, director Brian Vogt Weiss, is it Vogt Weiss or Vogt Weiss? I don't know. Looks at how the show commented on issues such as the Cold War, Vietnam, civil rights, and the issue of euthanasia, among others. As Vogt Weiss, what's his name? Brian, I'll call him Brian. But as Brian points out, there is one issue that has loomed over the Star Trek universe since its inception. We talk about this in Centre Seat a little bit. All Trekkies know the foundation of Star Trek in canon. The Federation and Starfleet, everybody's known since the original series, the foundation of those organisations is World War III, Brian says. Your last so-called World War. It's true that World War III has cast a shadow over Star Trek from the start. In Space Seed, the episode that introduced Khan, Noonien and Singh, Spock describes the eugenics wars as the era of your last so-called World War. Later, the episode Bread and Circuses sees Spock mention that 37 million people died in Earth's World War III. But that will increase, won't it, in First Contact to 600 million. Even when not referenced directly, we see it reflected in episodes like the Omega Glory, set in a nuclear wasteland that is mysteriously similar to a post-nuclear Earth, right down to the text of the US Constitution. Oh, God, yeah. I hate it when they do that. When they do that in the original series, they did it more than once, didn't they? To be honest. Love the original series, but, at times, it were eye-rollingly bad. Anyway. But it were of its time. Star Trek is, whichever way you cut it, the story of a post-apocalyptic Earth. It made sense as a piece of backstory when the show began. Nuclear war was a constant, real and immediate threat. The Cuban Missile Crisis, a recent memory. In the 60s, a World War III must have seemed like an inevitability. Could still be. If you give something a sequel, people are automatically going to expect a trilogy. That it might not strike until the 1990s or the 21st century must have seemed as optimistic as anything else in the series. Even when the Star Trek The Next Generation pilot aired, only 2 years before the Berlin Wall came down, nuclear Armageddon was considered such an inevitable part of our future history that it made up a significant portion of the plot of Encounter at Farpoint. We see Q dressed up as a World War III soldier, and the crew of the Enterprise put on trial in a post-apocalyptic, lawyer-free trial in the age of nuclear horror. The soldiers that clad in that weird quasi-futuristic armour, and they keep snorting drugs to calm down. Then the Berlin Wall came down. The international stage shifted. A lot of sci-fi future histories start to seem pretty silly in an age where Gorbachev was doing adverts for Pizza Hut. Did he? Oh. People kind of glossed over and don't think about it too much, Brian tells us. Even in First Contact, in a weird way, it's glossed over a little bit. Star Trek First Contact is set in 2063 in the aftermath of World War III, and while everyone's dress is fairly scrappy looking, the lush pine forest that surrounds Ephraim Cochrane's laboratory, as I said yesterday, are hardly the result of a nuclear winter. And there he is with his telescope, where he sees the Enterprise through Enterprise E. Star Trek Enterprise referenced the war a few times, particularly in its closing episodes, but it already feels like canon lore rather than a future event that we're supposed to believe will happen. While various sources across Star Trek canon agree that World War III starts sometime in the mid-2020s, pardon me, I know we'll get to that, and carries on until the 2050s, I think it was like 2053 when it was supposed to have ended. According to Star Trek First Contact, he said they'd arrived in 2063, approximately 10 years after the Third World War, didn't they? Anyway, we see plenty of stories and references that talk about space colonies, interplanetary and even interstellar missions taking place during that time. Most of this is the simple result of TV writers not paying as much attention to continuity as memory alpha editors, but it also reflects the fact that World War III simply wasn't at the forefront of everyone's minds the way it has been. Well, but even if a world war's going on, maybe other things can still go on at the same time. I mean, the world didn't stop during World War II, did it? And during the Vietnam War, America, during the Vietnam, no, it wasn't a world war, but during they were waging war in Vietnam, but also sending men to the moon at the same time, weren't they? Anyway, but I suppose if nuclear bombs are dropping left, right and centre, it might stop you setting up a moon base or whatever. Anyway, in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, when O'Brien sees a mid-21st century altered by time travel, he remarks, "And that wasn't the mid-21st century I read about in school. It's been changed. I mean, Earth history has been through its rough patches, but never that rough." Ow, that hurts. Oh, crikey. Which must have been pretty grim, given it was a period of nuclear war. Sorry, I've got an ache. Oh, crikey, I think I've been holding my mouse a bit awkward. That story was past tense, an episode set in a dystopian 2024 where the homeless were rounded up into camps and forgotten about. If that seems prescient, it's only because it seemed equally relevant at the time. We weren't being predictive, we were just looking at our windows in the 90s, Deep Space Nine producer Robert Hewitt Wolfe has said. 2024 gets one other mention in the Star Trek canon, in the Star Trek The Next Generation episode The High Ground, when Data refers to the Irish reunification of 2024. Like World War III, this is a prediction that seemed dated following the Good Friday Agreement, but the chaos around Brexit has suddenly made it a lot more plausible. Brexit is only one of a number of frightening and dramatic events that have occurred over the last decade, and once again Star Trek is responding to them. Obviously not written by a Brexiter, this article. And I'm not a Brexiter either. I voted to remain. So just laying that out there. And there's Cisco and Dr. Bashir from Deep Space Nine. Every 10 years there's a new Bond, a new Batman, to a certain degree now a new Star Trek. And sometimes they resonate with their time, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's in the middle, Brian says. I feel like DS9 is a great example of that. I feel like the greatest example of that time, of all time, is Battlestar Galactica. That whole thing was about 9/11 and the war on terror. Sometimes it works, as with Battlestar Galactica. Sometimes it doesn't work, as with Enterprise. The problem with what Enterprise did is there were already so many bad things going on, you didn't need to create a brand new character to cut Florida in half. This is in the Xindi War arc, when an alien race called the Xindi, which are actually, I think, 5 separate races from the same planet that were all like intelligent, and they all got together, called themselves the Xindi. And they were told that the Earth was a threat to them, and so they sent a probe to Earth, which blasted a beam down and cut a swathe down from Florida down to Central America and killed millions of people. So the Enterprise was sent to the Delphic Expanse to find the Xindi and find out what was happening and stop an attack. So they thought another attack were going to come that were actually going to destroy the Earth. Anyway, and they did, obviously. There was already enough to talk about while in Galactica it organically fit into the storyline. I think what Discovery and Picard are doing is more on the organic side. Star Trek has shown us a potential utopia, and with Deep Space Nine and the use of the Black Ops Section 31 of Starfleet in Enterprise, Star Trek Into Darkness and Discovery, it has shown us the potential dark side of that utopia. But new Star Trek seems to be doing something new that even Enterprise didn't, showing us how we get there. I think Discovery and Picard, in their own ways, are slowly but surely showing us, no, it was a rough start. It took a lot to get to Replicators, says Brian. It took a lot to get to the Prime Directive. We didn't get here by accident, and we didn't get here easily. I think as the onion peels more and more, both shows are showing the underbelly of what would be the future of Star Trek. Sorry, Brian, I disagree with you, because Discovery and Picard are just dismantling Star Trek. I'm sorry. Star Trek Discovery was the first to remind us of the effects of World War III in the second series episode New Eden. Here, Star Trek returned to another of its favourite tropes, humans transposed from Earth history and set up as an independent colony on another world. Yeah, because it were a load of rubbish. This time, the transposed humans were the congregation of a church rescued from a nuclear blast. Yeah, and it were pointless. It was stupid. It was supposed to be, this red angel that could somehow transport a whole church. It took them 50,000 light years across the galaxy. How? Don't know. Just did. Later, Discovery would encounter its own apocalypse in the form of the Burn, which destroyed galactic civilization as we know it and forced the Federation to rebuild from scratch and rediscover its values along the way. All because a child Kelpian that were born on a planet made of dilithium, so that made it connected to dilithium on a subspace level, and when it screamed out because of the death of its mother, every starship in the galaxy that with an active warp core exploded. What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish. And Star Trek Picard, we know that the history of the Federation has changed, and the early impressions suggest this will be a darker and more fascistic future for humanity. Yeah, because when they started writing this season of Picard, Donald Trump was still president, wasn't he? And everybody in California, actors and stuff like that, hated Donald Trump. Not a fan of him myself, I think he's a pig oaf. But, half of America voted for him, and half didn't. Just over half didn't. But you don't want to be, what's the word? Never mind. And to fix it, Picard and friends go back in time to 2024. From what we know of Trek canon, World War III is supposed to begin in 2026. As I said, I think this thing that they've got to go and stop will be they've got to stop, a Trump-alike getting into power. Because if he does get into power, he'll start World War III. So there we go. Or if he's already in power, because it does look a bit dark, does the history, so maybe they've got to get him out of power. I don't know. But anyway, it'll be something like that. Star Trek obviously doesn't predict the future. The show has never been about telling us what will happen, only finding new ways of talking about what is happening now. There are no easy answers in science fiction to the fears a lot of us currently have, whether about hypothetical conflicts or the very real violence happening in Ukraine during the Russian invasion. Once again, though, people are scared and seriously talking about the threat of another world war. Perhaps what Star Trek can and always has offered fans is the hope that the same humans who commit world-ending atrocities might one day be capable of building a utopia. And again, Star Trek The Centre Seat is available to stream now in the UK on IMDb TV. I don't know what it's. I don't know where you can see it in elsewhere. Maybe it's on Paramount Plus in America and stuff. I don't know. There you go. World War III and Star Trek. The behind-the-scenes Star Trek bagel prank as told by William Shatner. And there he is. Like a dynamo with never-ending energy, William Shatner keeps on going. He does, doesn't he? During the weekend of March 18th to 19th, 2022, Shatner appeared at GalaxyCon, Richmond in Virginia. He did the usual things that a star does when visiting with fans, autographs, posing for photos, and interacting with them. The GalaxyCon Richmond weekend drew other stars from the Star Trek universe, including Brent Spiner, Data, Jeffrey Combs, Shran, and a million others, and David Gerald. Is it Gerald or Gerald? Whatever, I don't know. The writer behind the classic episode The Trouble with Tribbles. There were hundreds of vendors with Trek merchandise, including one gentleman who had nearly every Mego Trek figure available. Trek fans came out in their Starfleet best, and there was even one cosplay Klingon who stole the show. But it was, I bet it was a traditional Klingon, you know, a Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, a Berman Klingon, I bet it was. I bet he wanted a Kurtzman Klingon. But it was Shatner who took to the stage at the Greater Richmond Convention Centre and spoke to thousands of people about almost anything. When he took to the stage, the crowd erupted in applause and he began regaling the audience with his tales. And I presume there's a video of it, maybe, I don't know what it is. Can't do with him. Shatner said he had been thinking a lot about his trip to space and how it affected his life after returning to Earth. This is not one of his missions on the fictional Enterprise, but his real-life trip to space aboard the Blue Origin rocket in October 2021. Jeff Bezos's Willy rocket, because it does look like a big Willy. Shatner said that he and his musical partners had composed a song about the trip. God. The new song was intended to be on the follow-up to his album Bill, but when he got back to Earth after the flight, he realised that what he imagined space would be and what it was were two very different things. I'll not do an impression because I can't do William Shatner. On Thursday, when I came back down, one of the first phone calls I made was to Rob Chernow, Shatner said. Everything we wrote about what it would be like going up into space, forget about it. Nothing like it whatsoever. Shatner said that he and the team came up with a song that better reflected his experience of going into space. This new song is called So Fragile, So Blue. Shatner will appear in concert at the Kennedy Center on April 29th, 2022, where he will perform the song for the first time in public with musician and collaborator Ben Folds. Anyone familiar with outtakes from Star Trek the original series can attest that Shatner was someone who had fun on set. So let's have a drink of water. Ooh, how's that going? Thanks to the numerous blooper videos available on YouTube, fans can see that while working on the show was tough, the cast and crew managed to squeeze in some fun. Since someone from the audience asked about a bromance moment between Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, Spock and DeForest Kelley, Dr. McCoy, it took a few minutes to share a classic prank from those days. Shatner said that he met Kelley one morning at the craft services table where the cast and crew would grab a bite to eat. On one particular day, Kelley confided that he'd been having difficulty remembering his lines. "You know, Bill, I'm really frightened," Kelley said. "I think I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my memory. I can't remember names. I can't remember lines, Bill." "I can't remember lines, Bill." "I'm a doctor, not an actor." Oh, vice versa. "Oh, DeForest, don't be silly." Oh, DeForest, don't be silly," said Shatner. "Memory is not like that. Everyone goes through stages like that. Don't be afraid of forgetting." Kelley put a bagel in a toaster and waited for it to warm. Shatner noticed that Nimoy was also in the room and asked the Spock actor to distract Kelley. He asked Kelley to help get something out of his eye. While that was happening, Shatner quickly took the bagels out of the toaster and ate them. Probably why he had to, adjust his uniform mid-season, so because he put him weight on, because he's eating all DeForest Kelly's bagels. When he returned to the toaster, Kelly was visibly upset. He grabbed another bagel, put it in the toaster, and watched it. Now, you could tell he was no longer anticipating with joy, Shatner said, as the audience giggled. There better be some bread in there. Shatner had Nimoy distract Kelly once again, and Shatner stole the bagels as he did the first time. When the toaster popped again, there were no bagels. Kelly looked at Shatner and screamed, "Oh, you son of a bitch!" With that, Shatner left the stage, and the audience rewarded him with a standing ovation. Yeah, for being a dick. I'm sorry, but that's what he was doing. His friend, his compatriot, was saying that he was worrying about his memory. So what did William Shatner do? Took piss. And made him think his memory, was genuinely going. What an a-hole. Right, Star Trek Picard Season 2, Q slapping John Luke was John Delancey's idea. John Delancey reveals it was his idea for Q to haul off and slap John Luke in a pivotal Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 1 scene. I thought it was in Episode 2. I can't remember. It was Episode 2, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah. I'm looking a bit mental there, isn't it? John Delancey says it was his idea for Q to slap Jean-Luc in Episode 1 of Star Trek Picard Season 2. But it was in Episode 2, because he just appeared, didn't he, at the end of Episode 1, and told him, this is the road not taken, or the end of the road not taken, and then that was end of Episode 1, so it was Episode 2! I can't even get that right. Season 1 of Paramount Plus's Picard-centred Star Trek show brought back several fan-favourite characters from Star Trek TNG, in addition to Picard himself, and even more Next Generation characters have returned for Picard Season 2. Of course, some of those Picard Season 1 returns, particularly Riker and Troy, were little more than cameo appearances that had only a minor impact on the actual story. The return of Delancey's Q in Season 2 has been a different story, however. Picard's long-time antagonist not only shows up shockingly at the end of Episode 1, but his actions were in fact the catalyst for the entire season's story. Exactly what is going on with Q in Picard Season 2 is something that the show has yet to answer. However, it was clear from Q's actions in Episode 1 that the character is not the same as he was on TNG. It turns out Q's most surprising action, hauling off and slapping Jean-Luc Picard across the face, making a bit of raspberry jam appear, was specifically intended to convey that Q is not his usual self. According to Q actor Delancey, it was actually his own idea to get across Q's greater sense of urgency in this blunt and physical way, as Delancey told fans during a Twitter Spaces chat via TrekMovie.com. That was something that I added. It should be shocking, I hope so, and then mostly it should show that it's not playtime. I don't have the time for this to be an extended back and forth between Picard and I. I've come there to be helpful in the most profound sort of way for him, but also there's a motivation for me as well. I mean, he should have said, Q should have said, I'd learned this from Captain Sisko. Oh, no, Commander Sisko. I'd learned at the time, wasn't it? I learned this from Commander Sisko, because Sisko punched Q, didn't he? And Q said, Picard never hit me. And Sisko said, I'm not Picard. And Q said, yes, you're much easier to provoke. But then we never saw Q again in Deep Space Nine. So obviously, he was scared of Sisko. Long-time Star Trek fans were indeed shocked that Q would resort to such a basic human move as slapping someone in the face to get their attention. Q, of course, is well known for being much more subtle in his actions, as he messes with people's heads in order to better study their behaviour and get sadistic thrill out of being a prankster. As I said, he could have said he'd learned this from Sisko. But it's clear Q is not back to play games like the classic TNG episode Cupid, where he memorably forced the crew of the Enterprise to live out a scenario from the story of Robin Hood. Sir, I must protest. I am not a merry man. That was my Worf impersonation. This time around, the stakes are much higher for the character, hence his need to cut through all the usual banter and get Picard to listen. The thought of Q slapping Picard in the face would of course have been unthinkable on TNG, but that's exactly why the moment is so effective. That Delancey would grasp this and come up with the slap idea himself only shows how thoroughly he's come to understand the character over the years. The fact that Q is seemingly in such desperate straits indeed makes the character's return more interesting, helping elevate it above a standard fan service move. It will be interesting to see what other unusual behaviours Q engages in as Star Trek Picard Season 2 plays out. Well, he hasn't out yet, has he? He's appeared once, his initial appearance, and with history changing, and then he's appeared, I think, just before the travel back in time, but he hasn't appeared while they've been in 2024, has he? Yet. I don't think he has anyway. But yeah, he should have said, when he hit him or slapped him, he should have said, I learned this from Commander Sisko. Right, sticking with Picard, analysing there's a list, the top 10 suspects for The Watcher in Star Trek Picard Season 2. Season 2 of Star Trek, can you see it here? Season 2 of Star Trek Picard has introduced the concept of a Watcher, an unknown individual in 2024 Los Angeles who is integral to repairing the timeline and preventing the dystopian future we saw in the second episode. The search has already begun in the third and most recent episode, but so far the Watcher remains a mystery, so today we decided to run down some of the suspects for this key mystery. The analysis contains potential spoilers, including looking at clues from trailers for the upcoming series. Who is the Watcher? There are a few clues we have for this mystery. Mentions of the Watcher have cropped up in teaser trailers since before the series premiere, including being associated with mysterious characters with white eyes. The Watcher was first mentioned by the Borg Queen, Annie Wershing, in episode 2, Penance, who said the changes in the timeline were due to a temporal rescission, a single change, 2024, that is the when. Where is the where? Earth. A change in the timeline originates there in Los Angeles. There is someone there to help a Watcher seek the Watcher. And then barely heard. There's a splinter in her flesh, the beginning of it. Episode 3, Assimilation, sees Picard and company reach 2024 Los Angeles, and Raffi and Seven begin their search while Picard and Jurati attempt to restore the Queen and extract further information from her. We're given another clue here as Jurati connects herself to the Queen and at one point exclaims, I can see so much, the Watcher, 15. Connects herself, and then disconnects, and she's no Borg, nanoprobes, what they call it, nanoprobes, flooding the system and assimilating her. No. Does me head in. Anyway, that 15. What this last bit means, we have no idea, but the Queen's speech would certainly seem to suggest that the Watcher is female. However, it's always possible that this part of the speech was misdirection and was actually referring to someone other than the Watcher, so we'll stay open-minded regarding their gender. The very title Watcher implies they play a passive role in events rather than being an Edith Keeler-style focal point. The suspects. How all of this plays out is anyone's guess, but we have some theories. Here are some of our suggestions about the Watcher's possible identity. Guinan. By far the most obvious candidate is Guinan. Besides the fact that you don't bring Whoopi Goldberg back for one very good scene. Oh, very good, pointless. Well, unless it gets paid off later, but the actual content of their scene, the dialogue was pointless, wasn't it? Anyway, this isn't Nemesis after all. We know from as far back as yesterday's Enterprise, which Q handily name-dropped in Penance, oh God, it did, didn't it? That Elorians are able to perceive events outside linear time and can detect changes in the timeline, as well as the actions needed to correct them. Sorry, Tasha. Because Tasha appeared when the timeline changed, and Guinan said that she had to go onto the Enterprise C to her death, but it turned out she didn't die anyway. She got captured by Romulans and had a daughter, Sealer, and they were then executed. Anyway, Elorians are also known as a race of listeners, which is certainly in the zone as watchers as well. Episode 1, The Stargazer, established that Picard's caution around romantic relationships is also a theme to this season, and we've already seen Guinan counsel him on this matter in the same episode. Yeah, the pointless exchange. If the change in the if the change in the timeline ties into this, who's better to identify the changes in the timeline and point Picard on the path to correcting them than his literally oldest friend? We know Guinan lived on Earth for a while in our past time's arrow, so she may still be hanging out on Earth in 2024. Another spelling mistake there. Another bit of evidence that she might be the Watcher. In trailers, we've seen a glimpse of Picard visiting 10 Forward Avenue in 2024. The downside, Guinan's probably too obvious. The very fact that she's the most likely candidate probably excludes her. Plus, if they did show her, they'd have to do a lot of de-aging, wouldn't they? Which is expensive, I should imagine. Laris, or a version of Laris. The Stargazer set up both Laris, or Brady, as a potential love interest for Jean-Luc Picard and introduced the theme of his intimacy issues. Plus, we know from the trailers that Laris, or at least a more human-looking version of her, shows up in 2024. This more human-looking Laris has also appeared with white eyes, which has been associated with the Watcher from Season 2 trailers. Could throwing this Laris and Picard together in this manner both help repair the timeline and prove the key to a relationship between the two characters? The downside, we don't know how or why Laris is in the 21st century, or even if it's her. Her appearance in the trailer looked quite different from the Romulan we know. Plus, would she have the ability to influence events in any way beyond becoming another member of the team? And there she is. She's lovely, isn't she, Orla Brady? He is. Soji, or sibling. But, bad. I don't know how to pronounce. Is it Isa Bright? I don't know how you pronounce it. I've never heard it pronounced, so I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Flower. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Because I've never heard it spoken. I've just seen it written. Anyway, Soji has been conspicuous by her absence, short of a brief appearance in the Stargazer, apparently left behind in the original timeline in the Beta Quadrant, or Beta Quadrant if you're American, working as an ambassador for synths. However, we know she's still a part of the show, and Soji, or possibly another synth also played by appears briefly in a couple of the trailers. We've already seen 2 Soji sisters in the 24th century, one of which was unknown to her. Could another unknown Soji sister have travelled through time? The downside, more time travel aside, there's no way that we're aware of for Soji or another synth to be in 21st century LA, although Briones, I don't know, still has a part to play this season. We're not sure the show's going to take a diversion to show how another character separately travelled back to exactly the same time and place. Another possibility is this 21st century character is related to our next suspect, Adam Soong. One character that we do know for sure is in 21st century LA is Brent Spiner's Adam Soong. As far as we're aware, this ancestor of Data's creator Noonien Soong, originates from the present day. However, the title Watcher implies passivity in events, and it looks like Soong might be this season's antagonist. Oh, excuse me. We know he's a revered figure in the Totalitarian Future Confederation due to the statue of him, it's like the holographic statue, seen of him in Penance, and the glimpses of him in the trailer show he's working with Q. I missed that bit. Which would seem to go against the Queen's line, there is someone there to help. The downside, it's not him. He's there in the 21st century, but whatever he's there for, it's not to help Picard out. I mean, it could be argued that at that time, it could have something to do with augments, couldn't it? Because we're coming up on the well, in Star Trek, the eugenics wars had already happened, hadn't they? Augments were around. Khan were already in space somewhere on the Botany Bay. So could he have something to do with augments? Could these people with white eyes be something to do with augments? I don't know. Because we know Oryxung in the 22nd century had made augments, didn't he? Anyway, Picard's mom. Should be ma mère, because she's French. Okay, on the surface it's unlikely that Picard's mother Yvette is somehow in 21st century LA, but we know from the Stargazer Yvette Picard, Madeline Wise, ties into the season somehow. The flashbacks seem to imply that Picard's father was abusive. That may well play into his intimacy issues. Patrick Stewart is a big advocate for women's rights, as well as an executive producer on the show. Yeah. So it may well be, or it could. So it may well be that, or it could be something more. There's a shot of her being dragged down a hallway at speed, and if accurate, that doesn't look like something Picard's father could do. Was she abducted by unknown powerful forces and sent back in time? Could this be the personal connection to Picard in the 21st century? The downside, there's no evidence yet that Picard's mother will be part of the show beyond flashbacks to his childhood. Vulcans. We don't know how, but Vulcans tie into this season somewhat. By the way, we've seen in Star Trek The Next Generation that we've seen Picard's mother, she was, in the episode where no one has gone before, we saw Picard's mother, and let's say she was elderly. So we know, if it was taken from his mind, we know that he's seen his elderly mother. So if she were abducted, when he were a kid and he didn't see her again or whatever, well then that's wrong, isn't it? But it's Kurtzman Trek. They don't care. They don't even know. I didn't even think of that. Anyway, Vulcans. We don't know how, but Vulcans tie into this season somehow. There's a brief scene in the trailer of a Vulcan in a dark forest encountering and mind-melding with an unidentified young boy. Possibly the young Picard. Wait, I've seen trailer. I don't remember half of this stuff they're talking about. In the 10th episode of the most recent season of Discovery, it was mentioned that Vulcans studied humans for almost a century before making first contact in 2063. I suppose so. I suppose it could be argued that. And the Enterprise episode Carbon Creek established a Vulcan named Mistral from a crashed ship secretly stayed behind on Earth in 1957 to study humanity. And he could easily still be alive in 2024. But the Vulcans didn't know he were there. Like the High Commander didn't know he were there because T'Pol's great-great-great-grandmother, wherever she was, told the Vulcans that came to rescue him told him that he died in the crash and they buried him. Anyway, the downside, the trailer scene appears to be a flashback to Picard's childhood with the boy looking a lot like Dylan von Hall, who played the young Picard in The Stargazer. I have no idea. J. Paul Boehmer as Mistral in Carbon Creek and unknown Vulcan in Picard trailer. They don't look very much alike, do they? I don't know. I don't remember seeing that in the trailer. I'll have to watch the trailer again. Another Q. John Delancey's Q may be the most commonly seen member of the Q continuum, but he's far from the only one who's cropped up over the years. Could another Q be in LA to undo Q's meddling? In Penance, John Delancey's Q was shown to be a bit unstable, with Picard noting there was something wrong with him. We have seen the character disciplined by the continuum before, so perhaps another Q is at least keeping an eye on his latest shenanigans with his pet human Jean-Luc Picard. And if they are looking for someone to play another Q, why not bring back Corbin Burnson, who handled Q's discipline before and knows a bit about LA? Why not bring back John Delancey's son, I can't remember his first name, who played, Q's son in Voyager? Why not bring him back? He's come to look after his dad. he's been searching for his dad. His dad's gone wandering, like maybe a Q with dementia might go wandering through time and space and get lost from the continuum and doing random things and changing timelines. And young Q, who's become a bit more sensible as he's grown up a little bit, has gone looking for him. I'm giving them too much credit, giving the writers too much credit. Anyway, the downside about Corbin Bernsen. It would be far too easy having another being on hand who could undo all this with the click of their fingers, plus Raffi and Seven seem to pick up an alien signal on their tricorder in episode 3, and it's unlikely Q would allow themselves to be detected so easily. The Guardian of Forever, Giorgio. I mean, they're also, unless it's mentioned earlier on, in this timeline, I mean, I know Voyager travelled back in time, didn't it? Was it 1997 or something like that? And there was the industrialist, wasn't there, who had found that crashed time ship. And maybe he could have something to do with it. Because he killed? I can't remember if he was killed or not. I think he was, wasn't he? Oh, yeah, he was killed, wasn't he? But his company's still there, so maybe that company's got something to do with it. Anyway, The Guardian of Forever, Giorgio. Discovery's third season brought back one of the original series' most iconic enigmatic entities, The Guardian of Forever. Except they brought back the wrong one, didn't they? They brought back The Guardian of Forever as it were written in Harlan Ellison's original script, but not as the one that were in canon, that was seen on screen. And gave it the ability to manifest itself in human form, along with the name Carl. Discovery also established that Carl / the Guardian can move around to different locations and, of course, different times and realities. We know the Guardians got form by watching, if you will, over alternate timelines and guiding characters to their correct path. Could Carl or another of the Guardians' manifestations be the Watcher? For that matter, could it be Giorgio? When we last saw her, she was being sent off by the Guardian to places unknown. We know that she's still, despite repeated delays, due to show up in her own in-development show. But could 21st Century LA be a stop on the way? The Guardian certainly has the ability to send her there, and it might be a good way to both tie Discovery and Picard together. Plus, since we've not seen Michelle Yeoh since Discovery's third season, it could serve as a reminder that Giorgio is still out there somewhere. The downside, the Guardian, would seem unlikely since this season already has Q, and adding in the Guardian of Forever might be an omnipotent being too far. As for Giorgio, it's possible, but Michelle Yeoh is a very busy woman. Yeah, look at that. Oh, God. Well, if they're adding omnipotent beings, why don't they add the Trelane aliens? They're basically Q, aren't they? Anyway, the Organians. Oh, there we go. We're going out on a limb here, but if you're interpreting Watcher to mean passive observer, then there's one alien race who springs to mind. A minute. Hey. In their two appearances to date, the original series' Errand of Mercy and Enterprise's Observer Effect, Organians have shown themselves. Were they Organians in that? I'll have to watch that again. I like that episode as well. I've never noticed Organians mentioned. Anyway, Organians have shown themselves to be a highly evolved race who observe events, only interfering when they have no other choice. These non-corporeal beings have been shown to have immense power and to be able to inhabit or appear as humanoids, not unlike members of the Q continuum. Could there be an Organian on 21st century Earth observing humanity in the run-up to World War III, set to start in just a couple of years? The downside, this is a bit of a long shot, and certainly a deep cut, even though the team behind Picard has shown an increased interest in references to Trek canon in Season 2, and there certainly isn't any personal connection to Jean-Luc Picard. The Organians never even appeared on The Next Generation. Oh, pardon me. Data's head. Okay, sure, crazy, right, but bear with us. We know the changes in the timeline are due to something personal for Jean-Luc Picard in the 21st century. And the change took place in LA when Has Picard travelled to the American past prior to this date, in the Next Generation's two-part Time's Arrow. The Enterprise crew visited 19th century San Francisco, where they encountered some troublesome time-travelling aliens, Mark Twain, a younger version of Guinan, and a mystery involving Data's severed head. At the two-parter's end, Picard leaves the head in a cave under the Presidio, where it was/will be discovered in the 24th century at the start of the first episode. Maybe Data's head had some adventures in between, which were erased or suppressed, and while Brent Spiner may not want to put on the makeup again, this could be done with the prop and visual effects. The downside, this is a bit silly. After going to the trouble of saying goodbye to the character in the season 1 finale of Picard, and already having Spiner back to play another character, this could be one too many times for the return of Data. I mean, he's coming back too often, really, if you ask me. Spiner, how many Sungs has he played now? He played a Sung, didn't he, in season 1, didn't he? Anyway. Conclusion, probably one of the top 3. Out of all the candidates that there are a few that stand out, namely Guinan, Soji and Laris. These all fit with the Borg Queen's suggestion that the Watcher is female, and we know from trailers that some version of Laris is in 2024 Los Angeles. How Jurati's 15 plays into it, though, is something which we don't know yet. Which of these will it be? Or are we on the wrong track completely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down there. Are there any thoughts in the comments? Yeah, there's a few. That's it. I've no idea who the Watcher is going to be, but I'm not going to give them a lot of credit. I think it'll be something stupid. I honestly do. It'll be something out of left field. That's what it'll be. It'll be, I don't give them any credit of them doing something clever. It'll be stupid, and you'll be like, That's what'll happen. You'd be like, why were it them or him or her or it? It'll be one of them sort of things. And be like, Anyway. But episode 4 is coming up this Friday, so maybe we'll have a few more answers. Or they'll leave it to the last minute like they usually do. Right, science news, last one. Nearly done. NASA Perseverance rover's self-driving capabilities put to the test in rush to Martian Delta. And there's a picture. The rover's self-driving capabilities will be put to the test this month as it begins a record-breaking series of sprints to its next sampling location. I don't think sprints. NASA's Perseverance Mars rover is trying to cover more distance in a single month than any rover before it, and it's doing so using artificial intelligence. On the path ahead are sandpits, craters and fields of sharp rocks that the rover will have to navigate around on its own. At the end of the 3-mile, 5-kilometre journey, which began on March 14th, 2022, Perseverance will reach an ancient river delta within Jezero crater, where a lake existed billions of years ago. This delta is one of the best locations on Mars for the rover to look for signs of past microscopic life, using a drill on the end of its robotic arm and a complex sample collection system in its belly. Perseverance is collecting rock cores for return to Earth, the first part of the Mars Sample Return campaign. The delta is so important that we've actually decided to minimise science activities and focus on driving to get there more quickly, says Ken Farley of Caltech, Perseverance's project scientist. We'll be taking a lot of images of the delta during that drive. The closer we get, the more impressive those images will be. And there's a GIF showing where it's going. So, obviously they're taking the long road round, aren't they? Just go that way, cut through there. Obviously they can't. The rover probably won't be able to make it. The science team will be obviously you couldn't see me pointing then, could you? You can see me mouse. Why don't it cut through there, Cut through there. Obviously the rover won't make it. The science team will be researching these images for the rocks they'll eventually want to study in closer detail using the instruments on Perseverance's arm. They'll also hunt for the best routes the rover can take to ascend the 130-foot high, 40-metre high delta. But first, Perseverance needs to get there. The rover will do this by relying on its self-driving auto-nav system, which has already set impressive distance records. While all of NASA's Mars rovers have had self-driving abilities, Perseverance has the most advanced one yet. Self-driving processes that took minutes on a rover like Opportunity happen in less than a second on Perseverance, said veteran rover planner and flight software developer Mark Memone of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California, which leads the mission. Because autonomous driving is now faster, we can cover more ground than if humans programmed every drive. Before the rover rolls, a team of mobility planning experts, Perseverance has 14, who trade off shifts, writes the driving commands the robotic explorer will carry out. The commands reach Mars via NASA's Deep Space Network, and Perseverance sends back data so the planners can confirm the rover's progress. Multiple days are required to complete some plans, such as a recent drive that spanned about 1,673 feet, 510 metres, and included thousands of individual rover commands. Some drives require more human input than others. AutoNav is useful for drives over flat terrain with simple potential hazards, for instance, large rocks and slopes, that are easy for the rover to detect and work around. AutoNav reflects an evolution of self-driving tools developed for NASA's Spirit, Opportunity and Curiosity rovers. What's different for AutoNav is thinking while driving, allowing Perseverance to take and process images while on the move. The rover then navigates based on those images. Is that boulder too close? Will its belly be able to clear the rock? What if the rover wheels were to slip? Upgraded hardware allows thinking while driving to happen. Faster cameras mean Perseverance can take images quickly enough to process its route in real time, and unlike its predecessors, Perseverance has an additional computer dedicated entirely to image processing. The computer relies on a single-purpose, super-efficient microchip called a field programmable gate array that is great for computer vision processing. How's this going for? Oh, we're nearly done. That's all right. On past rovers, autonomy meant slowing down because data had to be processed on a single computer, Memone said. This extra computer is insanely fast compared to what we had in the past, and having it dedicated for driving means you don't have to share computing resources with over 100 other tasks. Of course, humans aren't completely out of the picture during AutoNav drives. They still plan the basic route using images taken from space by missions like NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, MRO. Then they mark obstacles such as potential sand traps for Perseverance to avoid, drawing keep out and keep in zones that help it navigate. Another big difference is Perseverance's sense of space. Curiosity's autonomous navigation program keeps the rover in a safety bubble that is 16 feet 5 meters wide. If Curiosity spots two rocks that are, say, 15 feet, 4.5 meters apart, a gap it could easily navigate, it will stop or travel around them rather than risk passing through. But Perseverance's bubble is much smaller. I'm stomach gurgling. A virtual box is centred on each of the rover's 6 wheels. Mars's newest rover has a more sensitive understanding of the terrain and can get around boulders on its own. When we first looked at Jezero Crater as a landing site, we were concerned about the dense fields of rocks we saw scattered across the crater floor, Memone said. Now we're able to skirt or even straddle rocks that we couldn't have approached before. While previous rover missions took a slower pace exploring along their path, AutoNav provides the science team with the ability to zip to the locations they prioritise the most. That means the mission is more focused on its primary objective, finding the samples that scientists will eventually want to return to Earth. Also, didn't they use the helicopter to check out the route beforehand so they know what they're coming across? That's what the helicopter was, wasn't it? Ingenuity. Anyway, more about the mission. A key objective for Perseverance's mission on Mars is astrobiology, including the search for signs of ancient microbial life. The rover will characterise the planet's geology and past climate, pave the way for human exploration of the red planet, and be the first mission to collect and cache Martian rock and regolith, broken rock and dust. Subsequent Mars missions, in cooperation with ESA, the European Space Agency, would send spacecraft to Mars to collect these sealed samples from the surface and return them to Earth for in-depth analysis. The Mars 2020 Perseverance mission is part of NASA's Moon to Mars exploration approach, which includes Artemis missions to the Moon that will help prepare for human exploration of the red planet. JPL, which is managed for NASA by Caltech in Pasadena, California, built and manages operations of the Perseverance rover, and that's it. So yeah, it'll get there, and it'll get to the delta, which is where a river's emptied into a sea or a lake, and they'll find beer cans and stuff like that with alien Martian writing on the Martian version of Budweiser and stuff. They will, or Coca-Cola. Tell me I'm wrong. Right, that's it. That's your lot. Very interesting. Right, I make myself big again. Here we go. Right, just to sign off. Anyway, right, so that's it for today. I've actually gone quite long. I must have read some long articles there. There didn't seem much news today. There's no really super exciting breaking news, but there's some interesting stuff going on. So anyway, we'll leave it there, as I say every day. And until tomorrow, be nice to each other, help each other when you can, and until tomorrow, I'll see thee.